Welcome to Hashtag Trending, the Weekend Edition, or you might be listening to a special edition of Cybersecurity Today. This weekend, we're doing a bit of a special report on cyber insurance. And it started with our panel last week where we were talking about cyber insurance particularly for small and medium-sized businesses. We raised a lot of questions in the program about insurance, and I wanted to dig a little deeper. I was researching people in the industry, and I wanted to find an expert who could speak about insurance for SMBs and particularly for traditional but also new companies. I ran across Danish Yusuf, who's the founder and CEO of Zensurance, and I brought him into the program to talk about cyber insurance. And just to let you know, advertising works. I regularly get emails from his firm, Zensurance. And so I wanted to get some information. The company was top of mind. I phoned up, I called into a person, or got a real person, and voila, here we are. And Danish is the former leader in McKinsey and Company's digital insurance practice. He supported insurance companies globally, defining digital strategies. And before that, he was a software architect and developer at IBM Canada. So I think you're in the perfect place. Welcome, Danish.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm glad to hear marketing works.
Yeah, it's nice when you're paying the bills. It's nice to know you get a return for it, Now, today you're the head of Zensurance, which from my limited perspective is a new force in the insurance market. Can you just tell us a little bit about the company?
Sure, absolutely. So I started Zensurance.com about 8.5 years ago. And the approach and the strategy is the same throughout that entire time. It's about supporting the small business owner, the entrepreneur, get the right type of insurance at the right price and be able to manage it throughout their life cycle. We wanted to make it fast and simple. We wanted to do everything we could to provide advice and make sure they're appropriately covered even as the business grows, whether it's a traditional business on Main Street, it's a digital business, it's service, it's product, everything in between.
And you've built a digital business, right?
We are digital, but it's 300 employees across the country. So there's real people behind it. And you can talk to a licensed broker or you can do everything yourself, whatever you want.
Wow. And beside your great digital marketing, you've taken an approach which I think is an absolutely first-rate marketing approach, which is you provide great information. I read through your Zensurance Small Business Confidence Index survey. I'll put a link to that for anybody who's listening on the show if they want to see that and read it. But you did a survey of the small business market. And I have to say, before we could talk about insurance, this was really upbeat. Despite their concerns that the businesses always have, a majority, 69 or almost, let's call it 70%, were very confident. And the rest were somewhat confident that their business would be successful. Was that a surprise to you?
It was. The amount of positivity this time, I was surprised by. This is the third year we're doing it. This survey is really important to us. We've helped over 300,000 businesses across Canada shop for insurance. So we always want to understand how are they feeling and what are their fears. Last year, it was quite negative, as you'd expect. This year, it's actually a lot more positive with, like you said, 2/3 of customers saying they're either positive or very positive. I think it was a third saying they're looking to hire in the next 6 months. So definitely very positive, though the remnants of all of the challenging times from the last few years still remains. People's number one concern is inflation, right? It's something we're all dealing with. Number 2 was the cost of insurance, and number 3 was interest rates. So there's still that negativity, but a lot of optimism.
Yeah. And in fairness, 2/3 of the companies said they had business insurance and another third don't. That was interesting to me as well.
Yeah, agreed. So that's also something we like to understand. What's people's relationship with insurance? And in this particular question's cases, do you have it or not? It is a bit worrisome when we see a third of businesses not having insurance of any kind, because there's no such thing as a risk-free business, right? Whether you're a dog walker, a consultant, you're selling T-shirts on Amazon, there is some level of risk. Then it's up to the business owner whether they want to take that as their own risk or they want to offload it to an insurance company. And insurance doesn't have to cost a lot, but not having it at the wrong time can cost everything.
Yeah. And we're talking in general about insurance. I don't know how many of those companies have cyber insurance. The last time I looked it was 2022, and about half of companies surveyed had no cyber insurance. And another survey I saw on small businesses said that 60% of small businesses thought they were too small to need cyber insurance. Did you do any separation of what cyber insurance from the rest of the insurance market in the SMB market?
We track that when we're talking to clients and we're offering products to clients. I would say the majority of small business owners have that feeling that you just described, that, hey, we don't need cyber insurance, or it's too expensive, might be another feeling. But I would say from our standpoint, when it comes to Main Street businesses, very few will actually opt for cyber insurance. When it comes to consultants or tech companies, almost all will opt for cyber insurance. It also depends on the segment that they're in.
The world is full of surveys, and there's lots of different numbers out there. But I look at InfoSecurity, a good source in the U.S. So 73% of U.S. small business owners reported a cyber attack in 2023. I mean,
I would believe that.
And we've said this for a long time, that because you're a small business doesn't mean you're not set up for attack. As a matter of fact, there's a whole segment of cyber attackers that just focus on SMBs. So
Yeah.
what do you think accounts for this reluctance?
Part of it would be just understanding what the risks are and the value of a cyber policy. Yeah, you might pay, the numbers will vary, $500 or $1,000 a year. Whatever the number is, that's a sort of typical starting point for a standalone policy. But let's talk about the value first. You might just be an individual consultant talking to clients and may feel like, look, I don't have that much data, so what's the risk? But you could have a fraudulent instruction. So somebody, and this happens a lot now, will pretend to be a client of yours or a vendor of yours and ask for payment, and you might send $5,000, but it's fake.
Yep.
It happens. It happens to the largest of companies. There was an article recently around two people sending invoices for servers to all of the large tech companies, and they got tens of millions in payments because the big tech companies weren't even validating the invoice. So if it can happen to professionally run companies, of course, it could happen to the smaller businesses.
I get them all the time, by the way.
That's right.
And we're big enough, like my own personal consulting company. It's not any massive enterprise, I'll tell you that. But I do some consulting in IT and mostly in AI. And
Right.
I get things across my desk because we have an accountant, and it comes in
Yeah.
and invoice, and you look at it and it looks real. And fortunately, I think on top of things enough to know that doesn't look right to me. And
That's right.
But I can just imagine it just being slightly bigger and those things just slipping through the cracks.
And with automation and AI, it doesn't matter if the hacker can only get $10,000 out of you. They're going to do it at scale. So it's very easy for them to target 10,000 SMBs, and maybe some of them succumb to the attack.
Oh yeah.
So I'd say
very,
it's
very
really
much so.
important.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can rent a kit now. I mean, it's a franchise. You go to a bigger hacker and you rent the software and run it and see who caves.
Wow. Yeah. And the right types of policies aren't there just to respond to an attack, but many of them will provide you advice on how to be a better business and a more secure business. So it's both proactive and reactive.
Funny you should mention this, because this was something that we came up with on our cyber panel that we were talking about. There's a couple of common perceptions out there, whether they're true or not, and that's why I called you. One is that cyber insurance for SMBs is not affordable or it's not available. That's the first perception that we get. And we've talked a little bit about that. So you're saying it is not only out there, but it's affordable.
Yeah, I think that myth is busted.
The second, though, is that insurance is unlikely to pay out. And in some cases, I have to say for good reason, because some people think that when you get these forms that you fill in and say, do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? They just have to tick the box. They don't have to check. And insurance companies are not going to pay you if you haven't done the things you said you've done. That should be fair.
Yeah.
But the other one is that there's somehow that insurance companies are just not set up to pay out. And I think that's a common perception with small businesses. And yet your stats say different.
Yeah, I think the challenge is when let's say you go online and read reviews for insurance companies, they're quite negative often. When you talk about the companies, that's because people tend to only put the review when something bad has happened. If it's gone really well, you tend not to talk as much about it. So it's a negativity bias within insurance in every industry. I'd say the Canadian insurance industry is about $80 billion of premium annually. And the industry as a whole probably pays in the range of 50 to 55 billion in claims every year. So it's a massive amount of claims dollars that are going out from everywhere from micro to mid to large customers. So payments are going out. I think what's important is, you alluded to this, is when you are filling out the form and answering questions that you're completely honest about it. Because if you misrepresent something, yeah, there's a good chance that the end, the insurance company could say, look, if you told us you didn't have multi-factor authentication, that you didn't have encryption, we wouldn't have given you this cyber policy because the risk is just too high. So sorry, claim declined. And I think that's rightly so. You weren't truthful in your answer. There's also other conditions of coverage or when coverage kicks in. Quite often, there is a 24-hour or 48-hour waiting period before the coverage kicks in for cyber business interruption. So a couple of weeks ago when we had that big outage on Windows machines, it wasn't a cyber attack, but let's say hypothetically it was. Most machines were up and running within 24 to 48 hours. And so the cyber business interruption, had it been a cyber incident, wouldn't have kicked in because the waiting period hadn't been completed. Think about that as a deductible. So there's different conditions of coverage that you have to be aware about. And it's complicated. There's a lot of elements. That's why you need to go to somebody that understands small business, somebody that knows cyber insurance, so they can explain all of these things to you.
Yeah, and I think there is a third perception, and that is that these companies aren't set up to help me, that I'm on my own. And you're saying that you have a different perception.
There are some insurance companies that will offer proactive support. They'll offer you an app that you can download, and they will push known vulnerabilities to you so you can fix your machines. They provide education seminars. So it's really important that if you're one of those customers that really value that, make sure you ask for that type of support from whoever you're buying your insurance. At Zensurance.com, we try and understand what the customers need. If they're the type that really focus on that, we'll make sure we offer at least that premium product. And if you want something a bit more basic for now, we can offer that and then upgrade as you go.
Yeah, and I can't say this enough. There's all kinds of studies. Like I said, I point out the American ones that say 70% of small businesses are going to be hacked. There are other studies that say that if you're an SMB and you are severely hacked, 60% of those businesses go out of business within 6 months of that attack. I've seen this in real life with friends of mine who've gotten hit and lost everything. So what would you say to small businesses that say, nah, we're not going to, we don't think we're going to get hit? Jim's just fear-mongering with these stats.
So let's say the probability of being hit is low, right? And maybe it is low. But what happens if you are the one that gets hit? Your machines could be bricked, so you have to replace all your hardware. Your data might be gone, or you have to pay ransom to get it. So one Bitcoin is, I don't know what the price is, $70,000 now. Can you afford that to get your data back? Your customers may now be aware that, hey, this person isn't running a very sophisticated shop, so we don't want to work with them anymore. You might need some PR support, which is offered in most policies to help manage your brand. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So that's included in some policies, not all. You might have to notify your customers and provide them credit monitoring. If there was a credit card information there, you might have to notify regulators. There's a series of expenses that you could go through that your business may never survive. So do you want to be in that position where for some dollars a month, you're putting that much at stake?
I was surprised, and you learn something every day. Communication and getting help with communication and recovery is absolutely essential. It's not a skill that small businesses have.
That's right. Or negotiating. These cyber companies have entire teams helping you negotiate with the hacker.
What would you recommend if you're an SMB right now and you're thinking about cyber insurance? What should you do? Obviously, call your company, but what should you be doing?
Yeah. So think about what is a bad day in your business when it comes to a cyber attack, and you really want to go through that. So I'd say, think about that. There's lots of claims examples available on our website at Zensurance.com, or just go read the industry press. Second, I'd say at least get a quote and talk to a licensed broker so they can explain to you the various coverages, the benefits, etc. So really spend some time on that and then make an informed decision. Is that $10 or $20 or $30 a month really worth that risk? And make a cost-benefit analysis. I'd say in most cases, it's worth that little bit of extra money. Now, everyone has their own personal financial situation and business situation, so it's a personal decision, but make an informed one.
Great. And you're free to shop to wherever you want to go. I will put a link
Absolutely.
on our site to your study. People can find your site from that. But you're on the show, so give us your pitch. It's Zensurance.com.
That's right. Go to Zensurance.com, 24/7 available. We have 150 licensed brokers. We're in 9 provinces. Hopefully Quebec will be coming at some point. And there's no pressure. There's no obligation. Shop around, whether it's with us or somewhere else. Have a conversation with us. Let us help you understand the value and then make a decision.
I have to say, it was a real person. I'm not doing a
It's-
commercial for you, but it's refreshing. I picked up the phone. I wanted to call your company, phoned the number, really nice person. And I say, I need to talk to your CEO. They made it happen.
They messaged me saying, there's a person, Jim Love. He says he wants to talk to you. What do we do? I said, okay, let's connect him over. Let's have a conversation.
Great. Danish, it's been fabulous meeting you. We've run parallel lives working in the insurance area. I was at DMR, you were at IBM. Great to meet you.
Thanks for having me, and reach out anytime. And people are welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active. I post my thoughts openly on the insurance industry and startups. So anytime, happy to connect.
Thanks to my guest, Danish Yusuf, who's the founder and CEO of Zensurance. And a reminder, there is a link to the study on the show notes at technewsday.com or .ca. Take your pick. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Jim Love. I'll be back with the latest news on Monday morning.